Welcome to this episode of the Keeping Her Keys podcast. You're about to listen to a recording from a full moon salon that was held on June 24th, 2021 in my school, the Covina Institute. Before diving into the energy of that gathering, I wanted to express my appreciation for listening to the Keeping Her Keys podcast, and I'm going to take just a few moments to talk about the podcast, where it's been, and where it's going. It's been about 2 years since I recorded a podcast episode, and I initially did that because I was getting asked so many fabulous questions about the Keeping Her Keys book. So in the past 2 years, I've occasionally explored aspects of the book that I wanted to bring out in a podcast format. Most of my teaching is within the gates of Covina, and I do feel that there are certain things that I want to kind of bring to the wider audience of people who are engaging with the book. So the podcast was designed to support those who are on the journey with the Keeping Her Keys book. It's been an occasional thing, and it's been great, and I'm just so appreciative for everyone who's listened to it. So it's been great, and we're at a crossroads here that I've decided to make the podcast an intentional project starting in the fall. I'll be back with a professionally produced podcast. I won't have the teenage son editing. I will have a production team. I'll have a co-host, special guests. What I'm really excited about is that I'm broadening the discussion beyond what I talked about in the Keeping Her Keys book to all sorts of things that we find at the crossroads of modern life and the deeper world, from astrology to money to career, relationships, and so much more. So I hope you'll be back with me in the fall for the new Keeping Her Keys podcast 2.0. And now let's dive in to this full moon in Capricorn salon recording. Hail Hekate, may I be ever passionate. May I be kind to myself and others. May I act with integrity. Guardian, light my way. Guide, show me how. Gatekeeper, open the gate to a magical life. I also invoke into our space the jewels of Hecate's crown, the stars above. We draw down the moon in Capricorn and all the stars above, to the sun in Venus in Cancer, to Mercury in Gemini, Mars in Leo, Jupiter in Pisces, and Saturn in Aquarius, and to the ascendant, the one who influences us so directly within the moment. Our ascendant is moving, I think, just about now, has just transitioned into Capricorn. I know I looked at the calculation earlier, and I knew when we were about a half an hour or so into the event where I am in the world, not only is the moon in Capricorn, but the ascendant is also in Capricorn. Lots of Capricorn. Welcome to those jewels of Hecate's crown, the stars above. Now I welcome into our space our guides and allies, any of the goddesses of Covina who wish to join us, to our plant medicines, stone spirits. Welcome all to our sacred space. So hello everyone who's watching the recording. Everyone who's joined us live has been here for a while now. We've gone through our fabulous opening ritual and invoked Hekate, the stars above, and our guides and allies into our space. I don't record active rituals, so that little piece of how we begin all of our live events is never never recorded or never shared. You have to join us live to experience one of my rituals. Thank you so much for joining us here. It's a very special time. We're celebrating some big milestones for Keeping Her Keys and the Covina Institute with the full moon in Capricorn and the ascendant. I was just mentioning the ascendant has just moved into Capricorn. We are leaning into this full moon salon for the blessings of Capricorn, stability, structure, security, order, organization, discipline, leadership. Capricorn is the CEO of the zodiac. I love Capricorn. I was saying in the chat before we started recording, I don't have any Capricorn in my chart. So I have leaned into Capricorn, asking to be blessed with those gifts in terms of organizing myself, giving myself structure, building Covina as a tradition, and so on. So welcome to our Capricornian full moon salon. All right, so Tanya, who is the student coordinator of the Covina Institute and in general is there to help me with all things Keeping Her Keys, is joining us. So Capricorn full moon, you were saying earlier that Capricorn full moon is already teaching you some lessons. So what's this Capricorn full moon brought you?
It's brought me a renewed desire to actually get to work and make these dreams that I have, to put the work in to make them come true. And it's kind of shined that light on little areas that I need to focus on that will be successful if I just, put that Capricorn work in. It's really asking me to get out of the land and to kind of put those feelings into action.
And I love, so the full moon is in Capricorn, and the sun, of course, is in Cancer. So there's this, sometimes we experience that opposition as a tension. But I was thinking about this today, and for me, it's a tension, but when there's a tension, there's also potentiality. There's energy in it. It's like a spring. So it's if you can get the spring to work for you, you can release it and whoosh, and really get into that kind of insight from Cancer about understanding our intuition and our interior life, and that Capricorn energy, which says, effort, hard work, diligence. Capricorn in so many ways is a sign about how we go about manifesting our dreams. Because without Capricorn, without Saturn, who rules Saturn, without Saturn there to guide us, and without us working with Saturnian energy, I think it's just about impossible to really accomplish things, to really claim that key and get going. Because Capricorn is there to help you along that journey. The creativity, the dreaminess, all those things, the inspiration, the love, all those things we need. And we need Saturn to keep us along our way. So Tanya, you have a super special relationship with Saturn. He is, I don't even know what I would call Saturn to you, because he's more than a spirit guide or an ally. Saturn is like your teacher.
It's my shaman.
Yeah.
I would say that, working with the Wild Unknown Oracle deck, that's my card that I associate with Saturn, because he really is. It's a mentor kind of energy. It's a guide. It's aggravating. He's the taskmaster, and yes, he will crack that whip sometimes, but he's always there. It's such a comforting presence when you lean into it. And I've had to learn the hard way. My first Saturn return was not very, it was not fun, but I've actually been having a fairly, I don't want to say easy time, but I've been learning a lot, especially now with the square. We just had that square with Saturn and Uranus, and it was really eye-opening.
Saturn is, I'm just taking that in, because Saturn is eye-opening. And I think a lot of times we want to keep our eyes wide shut when it comes to Saturn. You know, that because we become enchanted with our dream, you know, like the dream itself becomes something that we're very enchanted with. And we have this desire, that Eros energy, like to bring it forward. And it's like, it's that movement from this enchanting vision that we might have to, okay, now I can claim that key and actually manifest this. And that's going to take a lot of discipline. It's going to take a lot of hard work. It's going to take the things that are not mystical, are not, you know, interesting. It's going to take those, like, let's just get things done. And, you know, like, I am super mystical. You know, I'm a ritualist. I love leading rituals, and I love dreams and Sibylica and all those things. And without that Saturnian energy, that Capricorn energy, none of that, all of that would be chaos.
Yeah, you need it to make the dreams a reality. You
Right.
can still have those mystical dreams, but you need that balance of the discipline to make it a reality.
So I think sometimes Capricorn's a bit of a hard sell, like in our world. You know, it's, I think a lot of times talking about Capricorn, it seems a little less interesting than talking about, for example, Gemini or Scorpio or Pisces or some of the other signs that are more airy or more dreamy, or even Cancer, which is the mother of the zodiac. So I'm excited that we're doing a Capricorn full moon salon. And we didn't do it. I think we did a Capricorn full moon salon last year too, as a follow-up to our Sovereign Goddesses ritual. Because I think, you know, so if you're walking the wheel of the year with us in Covina, we go through our 6-month deep ritual cycle where we spend our time in Hecate's cave and go through that underworld journey. So we do that, and then we come out as the seasons shift, as the days, as spring becomes fully activated, and we go through the rebirth, and then we follow that up with work on sovereignty, on becoming the queen of our own lives. And we just come out of the Sovereign Goddesses ritual on the solstice, which was just, it was already like 4 days ago now. And for me, as the teacher around these parts, it's so important to me to teach that sovereignty requires discipline. That I want y'all to be fully living that magical, the magical life that I called it in the Keeping Her Keys book, fully living and birthing into the world that journey, that thing that just won't leave you alone. I had a thing that just wouldn't leave me alone, and that thing was called Keeping Her Keys. And I mean, some of you may already know this story. So it's hard to believe, but it's been 4 years since I was driving home from teaching a graduate course in research methods in developmental psychopathology. You might be thinking, what in heaven's name is that? That's a course for people who are in graduate studies. So they're in advanced training to become psychologists, and they are learning how to do research with children who have psychological disorders and so on. So I was driving home from teaching that course, which I love teaching, and all of a sudden I just had another one of those, like, I didn't even know there was I knew there was a crossroads in my future. I've been feeling it for several years because I had been teaching in person and doing these things, teaching meditation, doing kind of that kind of spiritual teaching, and then doing some deeper stuff, leading rituals and whatnot. And I've been doing that for several years at this point. Really had a hard fault line between my career and this work, except with the exception of the meditation, because that's, it's more acceptable. You can kind of teach that. And then all of a sudden, it was just as I was driving home along this ocean road, it was just like I landed at that crossroads. and there was no going back. And I came home, got home, sat the boys down at the table, and I said, this is what I'm going to do. It's like I've been thinking about it for years and moving towards it for years. We really simplified our lives. I worked really, really hard for several years to pay down my debt, to do, I took on contracts. I would sit at the kitchen table writing reports on different women and children's issues for extra work. Was doing a lot of extra stuff. And so they knew this was kind of vaguely coming, and then I had a scheme, I had a calling, because I think we all have a calling. This is my calling, your calling can be very different. And I knew I had stepped across that threshold into that calling. And, it was time to take the calling from something that was largely interior and preparatory and start to manifest it in the world. So it is the 4th anniversary since the idea for Keeping Her Keys was born. The name came fully formed to me. I'll tell you a funny story. So the name, I just saw the name in my, how you see things. I saw the name Keeping Her Keys. And this is my first thought. I was like, does that sound like a Baptist prayer group? I was like, does it sound like a Baptist prayer group? Keeping Her Keys? Oh, no, it doesn't really sound like, and then I was like, that would be like Keeper of the Keys or something. So nothing, I'm not picking on Baptist prayer groups. I grew up with Pentecostal prayer groups, so I know that women's prayer groups give themselves cool names. So Keeping Her Keys was born. I started a little Facebook group, and away I kind of went. And I had a really great opportunity present itself where I wrote for Pathos for a few years, for about 2.5 years. I left last year. I wanted to be out on my own. So it's also been a year since I quit Pathos and completely stepped out on my own. To me, it's really important. My sovereignty is complete. And one of the deals I made with Hekate and all of my spirit guides when I was starting Keeping Her Keys was that I wouldn't go into debt. Most people, when they start something like this, like what Covina has become, there's a lot of startup costs. And I said I wouldn't go into debt to do it. And that was really, you shouldn't bargain. You shouldn't bargain with the goddess. You shouldn't bargain with the divine. But I did put one thing on the table in our sacred contract, that I wouldn't go into debt, and that my kids, although we were willing to do without financially, that generally we would not lack, because I think lacking is very different from not having any money. So that was it. So it's been 4 years since it started. It's been a year since I left Pathos Pagan. And I got to tell you, 4 years ago, people said I was crazy. Said I was going to do what? I was going to have a blog and talk about Hekate and merge, my practice as a psychologist with witchcraft and the deeper world and ritual and all of these deeper things. People thought I was wacko. A year ago, when I quit Pathos, people said I was nutso for walking away from such a sweet gig and such a big readership base. I'm still here. And I think the message I would say, I know this is Capricorn and we're leaning into discipline and structure, but I want to put on our altar how important it is to follow what feels right to you. Yes, you need the Capricorn discipline and structure, but you will know when something feels right to you and that you should do that thing. And you know what? People will say you're crazy, and they will be wrong. Because if it feels 100% right for you, it is. And one of my favorite quotes is that quote that says it's okay to live a life that other people don't understand. Trust me.
That feels so Capricorn when you say it, because you're sticking to your guns and following your path and what you want to do, and that discipline that you still have it. So I still totally get that Capricorn vibe from that story.
I love that. And I think, it is about sticking to your guns. And, so we had our 3 prep questions to explore. So we're going to dive into those now. So let's just quickly go over those questions. So Tanya, what was that first question?
The first question we had was, what key are you being offered? Is it a new career, relationship, healing? And we're asking you, are you dreaming big enough to accommodate the largeness that's inside of you? And I think that I saw one or two comments that, were a little bit confused by that. And it's just, telling you that your dreams, are you dreaming? Are you giving yourself enough room so that the dream is what you really want? Because there's so much possibility that you have that you can unleash. So don't sell yourself short. Dream big. And it's such a thought-provoking question. I love it so much. I mean, it's also one of those questions you can kind of just sit back and your mind goes blank at first because it's such a big question.
It's such a big question. And I wanted to start big. So everybody in the text chat, you're here with us live. If you've got, whether you're struggling and you're still at that blank slate tabula rasa stage, say that. Say, I don't know yet. Right? Just be honest. If you're struggling, we're going to spend today and then Sunday, we're going to come together again. And we'll be chatting in Covina, with our sharing circles. So, and we'll be pointing you in the right direction, and things will definitely become clearer as the weekend progresses. So if you know what it is, pop it in there, and let's give it some voice, and it'll also inspire others. I think that's what, we grow better together, right? So whatever it is, that's your key, your dream. Whatever it is you need. And one thing that's kind of funny that I've been muttering and saying, my key right now is I want the key to get motivated to exercise again. I don't know. I think I put that key, I think I lost it in a bag of chips. I don't know. So I've been...
That one's easy to lose. Right? Very easily.
I always do some yoga and I do squats and things in the morning, but actually I live where it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful this time of the year. I'm literally, I don't know, but so I'm getting back to it. So sometimes the keys are things like that. The key to exercise. It's not a grand scheme. Sometimes it's about that, eating healthier, all those things that we need to do because, of course, if we do want to birth big dreams, birth our largeness, there's a whole bunch of smaller keys that go into it. And I mentioned when I was talking earlier that in preparing to launch Keeping Her Keys, I dealt with a lot of debt. I sold the big house we had. We had one of those big houses with crown moldings and 4 bathrooms and, all those things, a mortgage to go along with it. We got rid of that, moved here where it was very cheap to live, and really downsized because I knew I was going to answer a calling I had, and I knew what I was prepared to do. So many things when it comes to what key are you being offered. It can be a specific task, it can be a way of being, it can be a new belief. It can be an opening to your intuition, to your gifts as a seer, which we call a sibyl often in Covina, divination, astrology, understanding your dreams. The key can take many, many forms. Capricorn will help you fully realize it, no matter what it is. Capricorn, you need Capricorn for everything. So what are people saying in the text chat, Tanya?
There's so much just great conversation in the text chat. There's a nice portion that don't know yet, which, as we've said, that's completely normal. A lot of keys that are around creating a new business or something personal. There's a lot of healing keys, a lot of insights, and financial structure and financial freedom. That's a big one too. Growth. There's so many great things. The key of choice.
Oh, the key of choice is so powerful. To live your life, when we, something we've been talking about in Covina for, I guess, since the rebirth ceremony is the difference from the journey of moving from freedom from something, freedom from the past, freedom from a job you hate, freedom from blah, 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 to living a life where you have the freedom to, bring your dreams into reality and so on. So there's so much there. So in the compendia, which is the guide for this class that we're having, this Moon Salon, I put the key at the heart center, which is the intersection. And in the Keeping Her Keys book and in Covina, we associate the heart with kindness and Hekate as a nodia, which means the guide along our earthly journey. So the heart center is all about ourselves in relation to the external world. Because when we get that key, sometimes the keys are truly just interior keys, but the keys always have an aspect of us interacting with something greater or outside of us. We might need to change jobs. And the key really is, I think one of the hardest keys for many of us, especially women, to learn is the key of kindness and kindness to ourselves. It is kind to ourselves to claim what feels true to us. That is kindness. It is kind to others in our lives when they see us living an authentic life and following our soul code. That is kind. And it's really different than niceiosity, I call it, when it's like, oh, I'll do this when the kids are older because, I need to be there. Now, when they're really little, you kind of do need to be there for them. But even then, you can scrape out some time, to work on your dreams. Or, I don't want to upset my husband. Or what'll the neighbors think? All this niceiosity business. And letting go of that and replacing that with kindness is definitely part of claiming any key. Wouldn't you say, Tanya?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's such a big difference too. When I learned the difference between niceness, which to me is like a superficial thing. You're not really getting deep into any layers when it's just niceness. And true kindness that comes from, that deep place inside. It was a real eye-opening moment. And every day I try to see if I can be kinder than I was the day before.
Right. So one of my favorite expressions, and this expression, when I have to have a difficult conversation, because Capricorn, at that heart level is about having those difficult conversations. Capricorn says, you're going to go into this organized, you're going to have a clear mission, you're going to state your case, you're going to do this without blame, or, trying to make yourself, immune, putting yourself on a pedestal, or you're going to go in this. So one of my favorite expressions, which I think is very Capricornian, is clear as kind. And that's something that so many of us have to learn, that key. Clear is kind. This is what I want. This is how I would like you to go about it. This is when I would like it to happen. This is what I do not want to happen. So, clear is kind, and that heart center, it's really about getting into boundaries. And in the compendia, I put up the section from the Keeping Her Keys book on the 3 cells, so you can dive deeper into that. And then we're starting the Keeping Her Keys summer school, where we'll really be getting into all this a week from tomorrow. I'm so excited about that. All right, so that's that first question. So the second question is also a really difficult one. And for everyone joining live, or everyone who's participating right in Covina, we're going to be exploring these 3 questions. So we'll do what key are you being offered tomorrow? And then the second question we'll do on Saturday. So Tanya, what's the second question?
The second question is, what are your 3 best qualities? And that's another one that's can be a little stumping at first.
So if you're watching the recording, you missed the part where we laid these things on the altar. So now, for everyone watching the recording or listening to the podcast or however you're experiencing this, I want you to envision your 3 best qualities and see them being added to an altar, to see them as the sacred gifts that they are. That your 3 best qualities are co-created between you and the divine. Of course, in Keeping Your Keys, we see the divine as the Great Mother, as Hekate, Anima Mundi. So it's something that we're co-creating. You know, like sometimes people will say, oh, well, you're so, you have a natural talent. And one of the things when someone says, oh, you have a natural talent, you're naturally good at that, you're a naturally good communicator, or you're a natural born writer. And it's like, if I was a natural, like, that's wonderful. But you know what it actually is? It's Capricorn, hard work, getting better, diligence, studying. I've studied psychology, comparative religion, mythology, history, folklore. I have been studying these things for 30 years now. There is a long trail of study, which of course is very Capricornian. So if you have a calling to be a healer, a writer, whatever your calling is, that period of study is going to give you that Capricornian stability, structure, discipline that you really need to be a success. There's no other way. Study is required. So that's part of, learning to answer those 3 questions. Okay, so Tanya and I did this the other day when we were talking about what we wanted to talk about today. So we went through the exercise ourselves, and I came up with, so my 3 best qualities. So let me see if I can remember what I said the other day. So in addition to things like curiosity, creativity, I wanted to get specific. I wanted to get granular. So I said one, and I made you laugh when I said something. I said, I'm an incubator. So I'm, right? So I said, I'm like a chicken. I said, I'm a chicken on an egg, always. I always have an egg that it can be whatever project it is. I'm always incubating something. I always feel like a chicken with an egg, and I'm incubating it, nourishing it, getting it ready. So I'm always doing that. And then I said, I know I have a gift for knowledge translation, but again, I've done training in communication. I've done training in adult education. I have a diploma in adult education. So I've done the training in terms of becoming a good knowledge translator. And then the third thing I think is just this really special gift, like a really unique gift that I have that I didn't really even become aware of in a conscious way until the last few years, is that I truly am, I have a gift, a singular gift for helping people, guiding people into the deeper world. It's a form of psychopompery, which means soul guide, that through meditation and ritual, I can really help people get into their soul and open up to what is truly their mission, truly inside of them. And that really helps them to find that wholeness. And I'm so fortunate to have that. And as Tanya knows, my talent, my gift as a ritualist, as a psychopomp, is something that I work on each and every day through training and study. I listen to great mystics. I read. I contemplate. So those are my 3 things. I'm a chicken on an egg, a knowledge translator, and a psychopomp. All right, Tanya, it's time for your 3.
And I even reworked mine a little bit after we were talking about this. And I've come to think my 3 best qualities. The first one I wrote down is calm. And calm also to me includes grace, and it includes insight, and it includes being receptive over being reactive. Mm-hmm. And as you said, like, I put a lot of work in to reach that state, to where I can be in situations and not react, where I can be that person that takes in information and actually has something meaningful to say, because I'm able to process it and to see it from where it comes from. So that's really something that I'm impressed with. And like for myself, I'm impressed with, because I was never a calm person, until I started putting the work in to really change things. The second one I worked on, and I still have such a hard time coming up with an actual word. I keep saying like knowing. I have this gift of knowing, which also includes innovation. And to me, it's like laser sight, being able to cut to the point and read between the lines, and repurposing ideas, my own ideas, repurposing items, things. Like I'm able to tap into that spot now, in my 40s. I'm able to tap into that spot where I can appreciate this gift that I have. And the last one I wrote down, perseverance. And that is such a big thing to me, because the concept of being stubborn always bothered me as, a Taurus. So stubborn is always given in such a negative context. And of course it can be. It absolutely can be darkly aspected or shadow aspected, and, cut off your nose to spite your face kind of deal. But I have the gift of perseverance, where once I set my mind to it, I can overcome anything. And I've overcome a lot in my life that sometimes we don't realize how much we overcome, I think, until maybe, it was talking it out with my sister. We had a conversation, and, I've overcome a lot. And I would not have been able to do that if it wasn't for this perseverance, which to me includes a lot of faith. Mm-hmm. But when you're going through it, faith was really never something that I thought it was including. But I had a lot of faith in myself, even if I wasn't willing to admit it, because I was pushing through, just persevering. And I'm so grateful to be able to, to see these gifts now, to see them as gifts and to use them as gifts. Right. And it's taken that Capricorn energy to really, to get me there.
Right. So perseverance is so key. And so is knowing when to throw in the towel. When it's like, this is not working. I thought I wanted this dream, this thing, but you know what? Now that I've done this isn't right. It's time for me to start a new journey. And I think, as we're talking about our best skills, like the way you talked about adaptability, and to, so it's like, but there's also that deeper knowing that you have, that it's like, this is not working. And that's something,
flexibility,
right?
Flexibility is really important too, to be able to move with the ebb and the flow, and to know when your goals change, and to be able to change with them.
Right. And I think that's the difference between tenacity and being pig-headed or bullheaded, right? It's that, because when you're bullheaded, even when the ship is sinking, you're still refusing to acknowledge it. It's like, right. No, the ship isn't sinking. The water is rising.
Right. Don't go down with the ship before you admit that there's any water coming in.
There's nothing wrong with the ship. It's the water. So, it's that realization, that gift of like insight. And I think that's where like all that inner work that we do from November to May really comes in handy. So, that whole healing cycle that we go through with the rituals of the sacred cave, for everyone who's a student in Covina, or if you want to go in deeper, you can join the Mistai that starts up again in September. So there's so much there to explore on this altar of you getting really familiar with your best qualities and seeing them as co-creations between you and Hekate, whatever it is you believe in that gave you the basics for that skill, to see it as something you're co-creating, you're honing. It's, sharpening that key, refining it. shaping it so it can open gates for you. And so lots to think about there. And then the big question that I thought we saved the best for last in a lot of ways. This is the most challenging question. When you are facing a dream, I wouldn't call it a dream. It's a calling. There is something that will not leave you. Something that has taken up occupancy inside of you. Whether it's to do yoga or to run a restaurant or, to become more patient or to develop your gifts as a psychic, whatever it is, something has taken occupancy within you. And then it always has this question that it poses. What are you willing to do to birth it, to co-create it? What are you willing to do? And this is a huge question. And I'm going to be honest, this is like, we're in our sacred space. This is the thing where I see people that give up right here because they aren't willing to give up anything they presently have. And it works like this. If you already have all this stuff, and even if it's shitty stuff that you don't really like, but you won't give it up, nothing new comes to you. I mean, it's that simple. So you can't have the life that makes you unhappy and create a fabulous new one. Something's got to give, like that movie. Something's got to give here. And, and this is, like, as a teacher, I'm always like, this is such an awkward, delicate conversation to have. I don't like to discourage people. And at the same time, I feel like it's really important to say, you have to be willing to give up things to get something new. I mean, something I did a few years ago, and it still drives me crazy. So I can't buy new stuff unless I get rid of something. So I found a workaround for that. I just build whole new rooms and structures on my house. It's empty. I'm just joking. No, I do that. But anyway, but I do enforce this into like my clothes, things in the house. Like, I'd say, no, like, unless you do a purge and get rid of like the 97 pairs of black leggings you have, they're all different. You can't buy any new clothes. So, to me, that's been a good training for this idea of you can't keep adding things. You have to be willing to let things go. And so many things, I mean, that we have, and I see it all the time. People don't want to let go. They want to let go of the past. They know the past. They have a fear of making the wrong choice. So they won't let go of anything. They're like, I know, this is horrible. I'm super unhappy. But I don't want to let go because what if it goes wrong? And I was talking to my youngest son yesterday, who's, getting ready to, thinking about what he wants to do for college. And I said, I want you to live a wildly creative life. This is my dream for you. Wildly creative. And to go, I want you to live in a big city. And, like you do you, but this is what to me, if I was like, this is my wish for you. And I said, the worst that can happen is that you have to come back here. So I think that's a question a lot of times when we're entertaining what would I be willing to give up. I think the follow-up question to that, and we're not focusing on that right now, but if some of you want to stretch this out a bit more, is like, what's the worst that could happen? Because if we give voice to the worst that can happen, I know there's a superstition. It's like, well, if we talk about it, then that shit's going to come true. And I have to say, in my experience, we do a thing here in the house where we play like what's the worst that can happen game. And we name it and give voice to it. And that way it's not a boogeyman in the corner anymore. It's just this. Well, yeah, you could fail and you could have to move back here. But, it's not horrible here. Like, so what's the worst that could happen? The chances are things are not going to be any worse than they are now if you're really unhappy where you are in your life. So I don't know. That's just some truth from me. Tanya, what are your thoughts on all that business? About what are you willing to do to manifest your purpose?
I think it's such an important question because, as you said, you have to be willing to do something. And in my experience, there's always some kind of an exchange. There's always a give and take. And I usually think of it like, so you have a beautiful garden, and you can grow all kinds of different beautiful plants, but you only have so much space in your garden. Mm-hmm. So if you want to rotate or change out, like I've learned this the hard way through, I had a mouse situation, which kind of forced me to purge a lot of old things from the closet. It was a total closet purge, which turned into an emotional, spiritual purge, and it really made the room that I have now to accept these new keys that are being offered.
Right, so the purge, the urge to purge, and not to cling to things that you don't serve you anymore. It's it's definitely it's a process. It's not and the other thing I would say is we're in Capricorn moon here. Let's be honest. It takes a long time to do a lot of these things. We get the key, we start the journey, and like Tanya was talking about perseverance. And that, we build the skills. So the first key, maybe we need to go back to school. We get that key and then we work through that and so on and so on. And we keep progressing along that journey of co-creation. And I think the aspect of co-creation is so important when we are like answering that calling. That, what we're doing is something that's already been planted in our soul. And it's our job to co-create it. But it's not just the midwife catching the thing, we're actually co-creating it. So I think that's so important. If you have the PDF of the compendia, there is the follow-up to help you get ready for Sunday's Waning Moon Magic Circle. So it's called Follow-Up Crafting the Key Statement. So work on that over the next few days. So the 3 key questions, I'll just read them off for those who are watching the recording and don't have access to the guide. So question number 1, start big. What is the ideal? The ideal. I want to be on the New York Times bestseller list for nonfiction. Lofty goal. How do I get there? Or whatever your goal is, like dream big and then break it down. So now you get focused. Be that key cutter. See that key. It's like, oh yeah, there's a key and it works, but I need to get that key really honed. Write a few sentences summarizing that big idea. Bring things into focus. Powerful. The key statement is a spell. Use words to bring it to life. And this is something I always have right over my desk. It always says strong verbs, short sentences. I don't always do the short sentences thing, and I apologize. But, strong verbs. I want to be whatever, but use a strong verb, be specific. That's your assignment. So I'll read the 3 questions again. Start big. Dream big. Let that largeness inside of you take shape. Write it down. Now get focused. Write a few sentences summarizing your big idea. If you want to be a New York Times best-selling author for nonfiction, you got to write a book. You got to get a book deal with a big publisher. You've got to build a following. You've got to find the time and probably the money, in order to find the time to write the book, right? So what are you going to do? Well, you need money. Oh my goodness, you need money. So you got to save, you got to live less, you got to get creative, you got to do all these things. So you can see, you start to get specific about that dream. And then have a key statement. I will do everything in my power to write a book that I think the world needs. I will sharpen my skills. I will be disciplined, and I will meditate and connect to the deeper world and my beloved goddess. So I stay in my lane and honor this calling. Get really specific. So those are the 3 questions. And I encourage you to explore those 3 questions. So now, Tanya, you got some final thoughts. It's time to go into meditation. So what are your final thoughts? I know that's a lot of discussion. We'll have the recording up so you can rewatch it, work on the questions and so on. What are your final thoughts before we start to switch to meditation?
My final thoughts are patience is your friend. That's my advice.
You kind of froze. You kind of froze for me. Can you say it again?
Patience is your friend. Finding your keys and finding your truth and finding your dream. It's not going to happen instantly for many of us. And just stick in there. Persevere. Have patience.
Have patience. Be gentle with yourself.
Yes. Be gentle with
Because you and I both talked about the other day how we do this self-talk thing. Because I was cooking. Tanya and I were having this meeting and I had to cook all this food because it was my turn to bring the food to a thing that one of my sons does. And I was cooking and I started saying, I talked to him. I was like, oh, Cindy, what did you do that for? And then we were both saying how you talk to yourself like that too.
Yeah, the same thing. Tanya, what are you doing? Or, Tanya, calm down. Tanya, get that done.
Right. And so I think it's just when you talk to yourself, be gentle with yourself. Talk to yourself the way
how you talk to yourself is so important.
Right.
You wouldn't talk to a stranger that way. Don't talk to yourself that way. That's how I worked it into my life.
Right, because I think Capricorn can be a little stern. So maybe pull in some of that Cancer great mother energy when you're talking to, mix them together. And be gentle but firm. Be assertive, not aggressive. So I think those are some tips. So we are going to switch into meditation mode. So everyone here live with us, I am going to invite you now just to start to turn the focus inward. To listen to the recording of the meditation and to dive more into Crossroads and Keys and all of my teachings, go to keepingherkeys.com.